Today I'm going to be demonstrating how I drew the background trees in this colored pencil piece. Hi, Shannon Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artist at Play, and today I am drawing trees in colored pencil. So these trees are actually background trees, so they're not going to be completely in focus, but they're still going to be fairly detailed because I am somebody who really loves to draw trees, and so I always love finding references that have trees in them. This one actually happened to be a commission, and so I was really excited when I accepted this commission that it had trees in the background. So as you can see here, I am just kind of blocking in the shadow areas in the background. One thing to keep in mind when drawing trees is to keep your eye on the shapes of the clusters of leaves. Really, just like anything else, when you're drawing something realistically, it really comes down to breaking down the subject into different parts and really looking at the abstract shapes, and trees are no different. So that's what you're seeing me do here. I'm laying in mostly, like I said before, the shadow areas in between the leaves. And I'm just going through with light layers and just, putting it in. And this one, these are the trees that are furthest away. Whenever I work on a piece, I work on the aspect that is furthest away and then work my way forward. So in there, as you can see, I just blended that out. I used odorless mineral spirits and I just blended it out. So what I did was I put in my shadow areas, and then I put light layers over the parts that I wanted to be lighter, obviously. And when I blended out the whole thing, it kind of worked as a glaze over the lighter areas, and that's how I got the lighter leaves against the shadow area. So you can definitely use glazing techniques in colored pencil. So now I am just kind of blocking in the shapes of the trees that are in front of those darker trees in the background. And you just saw me go in. I used a ceramic craft knife to kind of scrape out some of the leaves that had gotten covered up when I did the background trees. And I'm just going through. I should mention I am using mainly Faber-Castell Polychromos and Prismacolors for these. All the materials will be linked in the description below. And I'm using Canson Mi-Teintes for the paper. So I'm just going through, and a lot of times when I use Polychromos and Prismacolor together, I usually layer thin layers of the Polychromos first because I can really get into the tooth of the paper. And then a lot of times I will do my Prismacolors over it, but it can go back and forth. They work really well with each other. Excuse me, my voice is kind of hoarse today. I apologize for that. I think I might be having some allergies or something. It's getting ready to be fall here in Maine, and so I always get some type of allergy in between seasons, usually headaches and things like that. So I apologize. It's creating a hoarse voice for me. So I'm just going through, and like I said, I'm paying attention to those clumps of leaves. I'm not necessarily trying to draw every single individual leaf. I'm more or less implying the leaves. And this may look a little more detailed than necessary as far as a background goes, but once the subject is in there, which you'll see in one of my next videos, it really does push it back. So I'm just going through. And I love trees so much. So you don't have to be perfect when it comes to drawing something in nature. It does not have to be exactly like the reference photo because nature isn't perfect. So I'm definitely using my reference photo as a guide to see all the different shapes and things like that. But if there's one leaf that's out of place, I'm not concerned about it. And I'm laying in my lighter color, and then I'm going in with my shadows after. So you'll see me going back and forth. Sometimes I lay in my shadows first. Sometimes I like to put like a glaze of lighter color and then go in with my shadows. It's basically just a balance between dark and light. Especially when the leaves are this far away. Really, you're not, like I said, you're not going to see individual leaves. You're just going to see shapes. and mostly dark and light. So this is one place where value really is important. Although value is important in anything you do anyway. Just going in, and I'm paying close attention to the shapes of the branches, like the direction of the branches. So if you're somebody who, well, you've heard this before, if you work on animals, then you know you always go with the direction of the fur. Well, I'm paying attention to the direction that the branches are going in, as well as the clumps of leaves. And that just kind of helps make it look more organic. And I'm actually using a water brush for blending my OMS. All I can hear is crickets. I don't know if you can hear that on the voiceover, but I can hear crickets like really loudly right now. And I'm hungry, so hopefully you don't hear my stomach growling. So here we go. I'm just working again. It's really just repetitive. All the things that I did in the background, like the furthest back trees, I'm just doing in the closer trees. But my clumps are getting a little bit bigger. So this reference photo was provided to me by the client. And it's kind of a little bit at an angle because the trees kind of go, there's a little bit of perspective in it. So the trees that are on the left side are actually closer to the camera than the trees that are on the right side of the picture. So as I'm working on the left side, my clumps of leaves are going to get bigger because they're closer to the viewer. And I'm also using an electric eraser to pull out some of my highlights if I put too much color down where I didn't want it to, or if it ends up being darker than I want it, I end up brightening it up with my electric eraser. I love this kind of thing. Like, I am just such a tree lover to begin with. I actually planted a tree when I was a kid, and it was still in my old neighborhood for years and years and years, and then they ended up chopping it down, and my best friend, who still lived in the neighborhood, told me about it, and I was, like, so upset. I love trees so much. Something about them, I'm just drawn to them. So I actually really enjoy drawing them. And it's funny because I know a lot of artists who despise drawing trees, but I'm just a strange artist. I love drawing trees. I love drawing a lot of things that other people hate. Like, I hear a lot of artists complain about drawing hair during portraits. I love drawing hair. So this is kind of like the hair of the landscape, I guess. I love drawing trees. And I'm just going through and putting in the detail. It's not very difficult when you just break it down. I think what most people struggle with is looking at the trees and seeing one big tree and just wanting to draw one big tree. And especially in something like this, like, it's hard to see actual individual trees. This is a big group of trees together, and it's mostly just branches. So it's hard to decipher. So that's why it's so much easier just to break it down by small part and just focus on one small part at a time, so you don't get overwhelmed. And I'm also using throughout this, you might see me use a couple of Prismacolor Verithins as well. I'm just going through. Now I'm just kind of I knew that this clump of trees was going to be pretty much all similar in color, so I just went through and put in a base color. I don't always do a base color, but sometimes if I know that there's a big section that's going to be the same color or generally the same color, I'll do that, and it'll just kind of make things go a little bit quicker. And I'm just going in and trying to shape the clumps of trees. Because as I said, as it gets closer, the clumps are getting a little bit bigger. So I'm just kind of doing a lot of negative drawing, so to speak. I'm drawing the negative shapes around the leaves and around the branches. Working mostly in the shadows, and that helps bring out the highlights. It's a lot of fun. Excuse me. This part actually probably took me longer than the rest of the piece because there was so much to it. It's kind of funny to think about. Like, it took me, I'm fairly certain it took me longer than the subject itself. The grass might have taken me as long. I don't remember if it took me as long or not. That's going to be in the next video. So this piece is going to be broken up into 3 videos. In this video, I am going to be demonstrating just the trees. In the next video, I'll be demonstrating how I did the ground, which is a lot of sunlit grass. It's shorter grass, and there's some leaves and stuff like that on the ground. And then for the final video, I will be doing the subject, which is a little boy and his dog itself. So this one was a lot of fun. I love doing commissions because a lot of times you get to capture memories. And I did do some editing to the photo and things like that. I never end up drawing the photo exactly, and I usually try and take some creative liberties. There was some poles in this photo, in the original photo. There were like these posts there that were kind of distracting, so I removed those. And I cropped it a little bit tighter so that the boy and the dog were still in focus. But I wanted to leave enough distance to show that they're walking away and like give them space. So I didn't crop it too tight. So even when you are provided a reference photo, it's always good to, you know, do what you can to improve upon it, to make the best drawing that you can, and to make it your drawing. Because I tend to work mostly from my own reference photos. Occasionally, I will work from the reference photos of friends. But for the most part, I try to work from my own reference photos unless I am doing a commission. And then they will provide a reference photo for me. And then, even then, like I said, I will look at the reference photo, see how I can make it my own a little bit more, crop it, and just pretty much whatever I can do to make sure that I can give the client the best product possible and have something that I'm proud of putting my name on. And this was just such a sweet photo to begin with. I mean, you can't go wrong with a little boy and a puppy. Like, really, it's just such a sweet memory, and it was very special for the client. And so that made me really happy to be able to do this for her. And she's actually, I think, going to be, it might be a gift for somebody, actually. So I think it's kind of fun to be a part of. And I'm starting to put in bigger clumps of leaves now. And as you can see, I'm just repeating the same process, but maybe using, you know, a little bit different color depending on the kind of leaf it is, and just blending it out. And I like blending it out because it is in the background, so it is going to be a little bit blurrier. So it looks like we're doing a lot of high detail here, but really, once I blend it out, it kind of makes it a little bit more blurred, and it pushes it back. I'm just tightening up the wood line there. And then I'm going back through and just picking out the details and maybe darkening up some of my darks and lightening my lights. Okay, so here's what the finished piece is going to look like, and I will see you next time for the grass. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit subscribe. Also, I'm on social media, so if you'd like to see more of my art, see the links in the description below. Please come back next week where I show you part 2 to this colored pencil piece where I lay in the sunlit grass.